What's going on, guys? Anthony from Chronometer Check, and today we're going to be unboxing the Seiko SSA343 Presage Cocktail Time Power Reserve. I feel like I just did a really cool rap. It wasn't very cool, but it sounded like it. Anyway, as you can see here, I do already own the Seiko Presage Cocktail Time SRPB43, so this purchase would be kind of redundant, but honestly, I'm kind of debating between the two, and this is kind of vain because I know the differences between them are kind of very minute, but I did pick this one up thinking that it might actually replace the more simple SRPB43 in my collection, simply because I already have kind of that simple dress watch. Actually, I wouldn't call this watch simple necessarily, other than the fact that it's date only. Wow, autofocus, really, really doing your job. Thank you, Sony. Yeah, so I kind of have this watch that already serves as like my sort of simple, basic, classic dress watch, and this one, it almost fights for wrist time with this one, right? I love this watch, and I kind of wear this for more special occasions, but I feel like the new Power Reserve model will kind of replace that for me and become that special watch. So a couple more things before we get into that unboxing. Quick wrist check. I am wearing my beloved Hamilton Khaki Field Automatic 38 millimeters. I absolutely love this thing. Bought it for my birthday. So glad I did. Link in the description. Ooh, on a beautiful Horween leather strap too. I think it like really takes it up a notch. Let's get into the unboxing. And here we are, guys, the SSA343. You see right off the bat, that dial is so insane. I love the cocktail time dial. As soon as I unboxed my other one, I'll put the link to the unboxing of this one in the description below. But as soon as I did, I was really wowed. So this time I obviously know a little bit more of what to expect, but it's still not any less impressive. And the complications on this watch are making me smile, kind of giddy, like in a little a childish way. So I do kind of know what to expect from this watch a little bit. Obviously, the big differentiator being complication, the power reserve, the date dial, and the overall general dimensions are a little bit different. So let's take a look at one of the standout features of this one in particular is obviously those complications, that power reserve kind of spanning the dial from 12 o'clock to 4 o'clock. And I think it really complements the dial, then also the date dial at the 6 o'clock position. And I think that little extra layer of texturing and depth and that extra blue hands that are on the power reserve and the date dial that complement the ice blue dial of this watch really, really nicely. And I think it just adds that little extra something to make it more of like a casual dress watch. Whereas this one also I feel like is a casual dress watch, but it just doesn't have the same place in my collection. And that's kind of what I'm looking to go for this for kind of something like a special watch, holidays and that sort of things. And just like the SRPB 43, it does have that marvelous sunburst sort of ice blue dial. It's really, really gorgeous in person. I don't think pictures or videos do it justice. I'm trying my best to kind of like show you guys the different lighting and how it looks when you do actually look at it in person, and that's kind of like a good sense. But man, seeing this in person is a whole different story. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I love the Seiko Presage, the applied Seiko logo, and then it has the Presage branding. So this is part of the Seiko Presage line, which is essentially Seiko's more affordable dress line, but still really, really good quality, really great designs. I mean, if this watch had a slightly better movement and it costs $1,000, I don't think anyone would really bat an eye at it. So that's why I think it's just such incredible value. Now, the movement house inside is a 4R57, which is a spinoff of the 4RXX series from Seiko. They're not the most accurate, but they're generally good enough to get the job done, but they are very reliable and robust, anti-magnetic properties, shock resistance, so really, really strong movements that are known to take a licking and keep on ticking, and you maybe won't even have to get it serviced for quite some time. And that's kind of one of the huge benefits of these low-end Seiko movements. And it's rather well decorated, very similarly to the 4R35, but I really like it. For a low-end watch, that little gold rotor, it's subtle, but it helps. It makes it look a little bit different, stand out a little bit compared to if everything was just all silver, brushed. It just wouldn't have that same impact, and I think it looks good. We have a signed crown for Seiko. The crown is rather interesting in the sense that it's signed with an S, but also the shape of it is actually kind of cupcake, so it's really, really easy to grip. It has a nice texture to it. You can hand wind it, no problem. This movement does have hacking hand winding, obviously also has the power reserve and the date dial complications, but the hand winding feels super buttery smooth, really, really solid. Something I would expect from even more pricier watches. And setting the time on it. So let's give it a wind and watch that power reserve kind of do its thing. Now, I've heard this recently, I don't know how true it is, that you shouldn't constantly rotate the crown forward. Apparently it wears down the movement a little more quickly than if you do rotate it forward and back. So it's just something I've been trying out lately. But yep, we see it clearly. It does actuate that power reserve movement a little bit at a time as I continue to wind the crown. And of course, we pull the crown out 2 clicks to set the time. Feels super buttery smooth with this large crown. And if we pull it out just 1 click, we can actually adjust the date. The case of this watch does have an all polished case, which is honestly a little bit disappointing. I know that dress watches are typically all polished, but especially when compared to like Seiko Sarb line and etc., they do a really great job when they combine the polish and brush surfaces, and it really elevates the watch. And again, I know polish is typically the go-to for dress watches, but for sort of a dress casual watch, I feel like they could have made it a touch more sporty if they did add a bit of brushing. And I think it would have made the watch overall a lot more dynamic and almost versatile. Regardless, it still looks good. It's not the most, amazing or impressive case. And I would say that's one of the few lackluster things about the watch, but it's good enough. Now, one of the few things that sets the SSA343 apart from its SRPB43 predecessor, aside from the complications, obviously, are the dimensions. Now, to fit the power reserve complication, it needs to be a bit thicker, and quite a bit thicker than the SRPB43. So the SRPB43 is only 11 millimeters, and this might not be the best example with the NATO strap, which obviously adds some bulk and makes it look a little bit thicker and almost similar in thickness with it on this NATO strap, but definitely don't get it confused. This is a relatively chunky watch. My calipers are reading about 14.7 millimeters, so it's about 14.5 millimeters in thickness. A lot of that, like I said, is accented by that power reserve complication, but also this domed crystal. It's kind of like a top hat crystal, kind of domes over the entire case, and it does obviously add some dimension. Now, the SRPB43 also has that same crystal, but still has a much, much slimmer thickness, and overall is just much more petite. I believe this version is just slightly thicker in diameter, but other than that, dimensions are very, very, very similar. So let's see how it wears on my 7-inch wrist. So size to my 7-inch wrist, this is very odd and peculiar patent leather strap, which I'll be honest, I'm not really a fan of it. It's super glossy. It feels kind of cheap, as patent leather tends to. It does have blue stitching, which actually I like that. The black strap with the blue stitching, it accentuates the icy blue dial and the accents in the blue hands really, really nicely. Seiko branded deploying clasp, which actually feels really, really good. And, I'm happy they included that. But the one problem is it's meant to be worn backwards. At least for my taste, I tend to wear and especially in North America, we tend to wear the strap with the tail at the 12 o'clock position. But I guess in more Japanese fashion, as they did also with my Orient Star Classic, which is another JDM, Japanese domestic market watch, it came with a strap that was facing toward me at the 6 o'clock position. I guess it's just a personal preference. Maybe it doesn't get caught on as many things, but so I'm going to be reversing the strap. Actually, I'm going to be getting rid of the strap altogether. I'm going to be honest. I'm probably going to replace it with like some Horween leather or maybe a Milanese mesh or 40 millimeters. This is about 40.5, but 40 millimeters I find is about my sweet spot. So I really like that. I wasn't a huge fan of it with the SRPB43. I actually almost felt it was a little bit too big for a dress watch just because as it's time only and not too much complication, there's a lot of kind of negative space. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to get this watch. I feel like this kind of remedies that with all those extra complication, makes it a little bit more interesting throughout the entire watch. Now we take a look at the thickness. It is a thick watch for a dress watch, but it's not super thick, especially by modern standards. So I am kind of jaded. And even some of the watch community are kind of jaded in the sense that, we look at like 36 millimeter watches and we're like, yeah, that's a real watch. That's a men's watch. But we have to remember that by modern standards, people are wearing dress watches that are 42, 43, 44 millimeters. And I personally do think that's too big for a dress watch, but that's, who am I to judge? Whatever people like. So I can understand why Seiko did go a little bit bigger. And, as I've said before, actually, if the Seiko Cocktail Time was smaller in like 38 or even 36 millimeters, this would be a killer dedicated dress watch, I would get rid of this in a heartbeat. But yeah, overall guys, I'm really happy with this pickup. I do think it's going to be replacing my SRPB 43. Time will tell. I'm going to wear it for a bit, obviously get to know it and, you know, really familiarize myself with it before I do make that decision. That said, I'm sure I will have a full review soon. There will be also full reviews of both watches in the description on the blog Chronometer check. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe if this is your first time watching. I will have more unboxings, full reviews, watch talks, etc. I really appreciate it. It kind of helps my channel grow and feeds it to the YouTube algorithm. And let me know what you think about this watch in the comments below. Thanks for watching.